In this video, I am going to show you a game played by the legendary third world champion Jose Raul Capablanca. Now, Capablanca was known for his style of playing extremely simple chess, yet being able to create a lot of pressure on his opponents. How was he able to do that? Well, I'm going to show you one game in which he's able to play really simple moves and create a lot of pressure on his opponents. And hopefully through that, you're going to learn some valuable lessons along the way. So without wasting any further time, let's jump right into it. So Capablanca is playing with the white pieces and with black is playing George Thomas. The game opens with the move e4. Capa plays the king's pawn opening and goes to one of his preferred openings, that is the Spanish, also known as the Raul Lopez variation, very popular. And now black plays d6, which is known as the Steinitz variation of the Raul Lopez. The point is this pawn defends e5. However, one of the drawbacks of this move is that it keeps this bishop locked inside, and at the same time it limits black's space. So because of this, black often gets some passive positions in the opening. Capablanca meanwhile continues to develop his pieces. Black also develops, and now Capa strikes in the center, creating pressure on this pawn. Black develops his bishop to e7, and in this position Capablanca goes short castle. Now it's not clear why Capablanca played short castle. It seems like it's a very reasonable move to make, first of all. However, he could have taken this knight on c6, and since there is no knight defending here, he could have gone take, and won a free pawn on e5. This could have happened. However, it's not clear why Capablanca didn't go for this, and instead he decided to not take a free pawn and go short castle. But still, anyway, we got a beautiful game because of that. So we have short castle here. Black plays bishop d7, eliminates the pin on this diagonal, and now Capa plays a very nice simple move, just developing his rook to e1. Okay, now if you notice, all Capablanca is doing in the opening is he's developing all his pieces. Very simple, he's following all the opening principles, and just notice how much comfortable it is to play with white pieces here. Okay, so rook e1 played. Now black starts to exchange pieces and pawns in the center with the move knight to d4. There's no clear way how black is going to get any value out of exchanging his knight and pawns in the middle of the board, because after take, it's the white queen that gets a very nice square in the middle of the board. Now white has a very small edge in the position, a very small advantage, and let's see how Capablanca is able to build it from here. Black also takes on b5. Now Capa takes back. Black kicks the knight away, the knight jumps back, and black goes short castle. Okay, so white has some nice space in the middle of the board, and he continues to finish his development with the move bishop g5. Notice that Capa is not playing with one piece. Capa is not going knight d5. Capa is not playing any useless pawn move like this. He's continuing to finish his development. This is exactly what you should be doing in the openings. And trust me, if you do it in your games all the time, you'll often have comfortable positions out of the opening, even if, let's say, you don't know exact move by move theory. So we have bishop g5 here. Now the knight drops back to d7. A little bit of a passive move. And from this point onwards, Capablanca is able to take the initiative with some very simple moves. So first of all, Capablanca captures the bishop here. Queen captures. And now the knight jumps in the middle of the board. Attacks the queen and attacks this pawn. So if, let's say, the queen goes here, this pawn is going to drop. So this doesn't work. That's why after knight d5, the queen has to drop back to d8. Keeping this pawn protected. Now what Capablanca does here is that he could first of all develop his rook to d1 and just play just keep building his position. However, Capablanca decides now maybe it's time for me to improve my pieces that are not participating in the game. This knight is already on a very good square. The knights belong in the center. The queen is very nicely placed in the middle of the board. It can't be easily dislodged from the square. So Capablanca decides, I need to bring one of my rooks to better squares. And he does a rook lift, starting with the move rook e3. Very simple move. Very simple. The idea of this move is to put the rook here. And now there is a checkmate threat on g7. There is a threat to go f4. Like for example, let's say black goes b5, f4. And suddenly the game is lost after this. Okay, just notice how just by bringing one rook into the attack, white has suddenly managed to create a very dangerous threat in the position. Black plays f6, defends this threat, However, this creates a drawback. There are two drawbacks that this move creates, as you will soon see in the game. Capablanca continues with his plan. He goes f4. He kicks the knight away. Now the queen is attacked, so you want to be careful. You don't want to lose the queen. You first put it back. That's what Capablanca does. And now black plays the move rook to f7. And now Kappa plays the move f5, highlighting the fact that because of this move f6, black has a weak square on e6. That's one of the drawbacks. Now this square, for example, can be exploited by the knight. The knight could sit on e6. At the same time, this move also gives white more space on the king side. It stops black from playing g6 at some point. Okay, there's another drawback of f6, as I'll show you later. You'll see queen f8 happened, and now queen b3. This is the drawback of f6, is that this diagonal gets exposed. As you'll soon see, white starts to create tactics using the pin on this diagonal. Okay, like for example, right now there is a very direct threat. Let's say black goes this move, knight into f6 check. Black cannot capture like this. Black cannot capture like this. There is pin from one direction, there is pin from another direction, and black is just, having a very difficult position after this. Like black is down a pawn, plus a lot of attack is coming. So that's why after queen b3, black first plays king h8, gets the king away from the pin here. But now there comes the move knight f4. And now this knight could go here, or it could go here. There is a lot of threats. Here, this is not a blunder. You'll soon see why. Black goes knight e5. Now you may ask, okay, wait, why can't black save it with rook b8? Why not save this pawn with rook b8? Because now this knight goes to g6 and gives a check. If you go here, you're losing the queen. So the most obvious choice is to take it back. But then there comes this check. And once the king moves here, f into g6. Remember I told you, because of this, there is a massive opening alongside this diagonal. And white is taking advantage of this pin. And this rook would be lost. So that's why after knight f4, black doesn't have time to defend this pawn. So he goes knight e5 and stops this threat. Now Capablanca decides to capture this pawn. Now black attacks the queen. Capa takes, black takes. And if you notice, Capablanca has grabbed an extra pawn here on the queen side, and his attack on the king side has kind of, halted, because black has many pieces which are covering some important squares, so it's not easy to attack on the king side. So what Capablanca does now is that he switches play to the other side of the board. And this is something that smart attackers do. Whenever, let's say, you're not able to break through from one position, see if you can open another front and attack from there. Okay, this is a classic military strategy as well, and it applies in chess perfectly well. So we have rook b2. Capablanca suddenly switches to the other side of the board by going rook to b3. Now the attack starts on the queen side of the board. Black plays rook c2. Now Capablanca plays rook a b1. The attack is going to come from this side, and there is going to be a pin here alongside here. So black plays the move h6, and here Capablanca plays the move, not rook b8. Capablanca plays the move knight to g6 check. You may ask, why knight to g6? Why not rook b8? Just pin and win. Because black has a very, very powerful move here, that is rook c1 check. This sneaky check destroys, this ambition of winning the queen using the pin. Because if you first of all capture here, black is going to capture your rook back. Whereas if you go here, black is going to capture your rook anyway. And if you capture here, he's going to capture back. Black has two rooks, you have a queen. Not an easy game to win. So Capablanca doesn't go for this. Capablanca sees the danger, and very rightly he plays knight to g6 check. Forces the trade. And now the rook goes here. Now Capablanca takes advantage of the pin, but the rook falls back. And suddenly, he cannot take, because the queen would take back. So Capablanca here decides, okay, I'm going to go all in with the move queen a8, and I'm going to capture this, and I'm going to have a winning position. And believing Capablanca's threat, black resigns in this position, which turns out to be a mistake. Black in this position had the opportunity to save the game with the move rook takes a2, sacrificing the rook. Now if the queen takes here, there is this rook going to die, and at the same time, if this rook takes here, there is this rook coming back, and all of a sudden white is no longer winning. Kappa is no longer winning. All that happened after queen a8 is that black lost hope. Black thought there is no way to defend this, because he was under so much pressure throughout the game that he just resigned in this position. The way in which Capablanca could have won this game was to go queen to b5, taking advantage of this attack on this rook. And now if let's say you go rook b8, you can take back with the queen. And now you can't go here because this would be a back rank checkmate. So the king has to come here, and now you can play this check, winning this rook and winning the game. Okay, so this was a very beautiful game by Capablanca until at the last moment he made one blunder and his opponent believed that his position was lost, so they resigned. But I hope you learned how with some very simple moves Capablanca was able to create immense pressure on his opponent. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, don't forget to press the like button and do consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.